If your team got guaranteed money, tell them call me.
Whoop. Make me say, my. I done been around the world.
Yeah, I was made for this.
Player Performance with J.A. Cavalier.
Hey, welcome to College Basketball Player Performance. I am Coach Rick Bowe. I will be your host today. I see Rajan in the chat there. Says, what do you got for me today, Coach? I've got some leans and free picks and analysis in 3 of the top games that are on the board today. It's actually a nice card. Tons of ranked teams that are playing tonight. A lot of good games. I picked 3 of what I think are kind of the top games of the night, and I'm going to start it off with probably the biggest game of the night. It's the only one in which we are featuring ranked opponents. But before we get to that, let me remind you, if you're watching live or if you see this recorded, please hit the like button. If you like what we do here at Why Lose, myself, Guns Picks, JA, the prop master, all of us, we put a lot of time and effort into this for you all. So please do us a favor, hit the like button. You can follow myself, Why Lose Coach, on Instagram. If you go to Telegram, you can check out some of the deals and things I have going on. Telegram, it's Why Lose Coach Rick. You can also catch Guns Picks there as well. And without further ado, as Guns always says, let's get right at it and get to the first game. It is Purdue at Nebraska. Again, as I mentioned, the only game on tap tonight that is a matchup of ranked opponents. Number 13 Purdue, number 7 Nebraska. And before I got on here, I'm looking at it all morning as I kind of capped the game, and we do have a line move. So Nebraska actually opened -1.5. We saw that line get to -2.5, and if you look now, most of your sports books are going to have Nebraska back to a 1.5-point home favorite. And we'll talk in a moment, what I kind of think about that. So this is a matchup of 2 of the best teams in the Big Ten. It's 2 of the best in the country. We're going to see them both in the NCAA tournament. Just a matter of where they're going to be seated. However, both these teams recently they've struggled. If you've followed both or the Big Ten or any of college basketball, that Purdue recently lost 3 games in a row. Lost to Illinois, lost to UCLA and Indiana. Really no shame in losing to Illinois. They're one of the better teams in the Big Ten and in the country. UCLA and Indiana, both those games were on the road. It's always difficult to play, on the road in the Big Ten. But Purdue did lose 3 in a row. Nebraska has lost 2 of its last 3. They actually beat Rutgers over the weekend. But before that, they also lost to Illinois at home. And then they lost on the road at Michigan in a game that, they actually played pretty well. They covered the spread. They only lost by 3. So no shame in losing to Michigan on the road. But as I mentioned, both teams have, do have some losses more recently. So, what does that mean? What does this line move mean? Obviously it's going to be tight, with the spread now at 1.5, but ton of things to consider here. And I'll start with this. Purdue, probably the better offense, right? They average 83 points a game. They're an outstanding shooting team. When you shoot well, you're going to score, and you always have a chance to be in games. But Purdue is a top 15 to top 20 team in, overall field goal percentage, 2-point field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage, and they're really good at shooting threes, top 15 in the country. And they like to shoot the 3. On the other end, Nebraska is probably the better defensive team. They are 22nd in the country in scoring defense. They allow teams an average of 66.1 points a game. And what they really do good is defend the perimeter. So I mentioned Purdue likes to shoot the 3, and they're very good at it. Well, Nebraska is actually very good at defending that. They rank 34th in the nation in opponent 3-point field goal percentage. You can also look at the kind of the home away dynamic. Purdue on the road, a couple of decent road wins this year. Early in the season, beat Alabama, held Alabama to 80 points, which not a lot of teams do. They won that game. They won at Wisconsin, which, as I mentioned before, tough to win on the road in the Big Ten. especially a team like Wisconsin that, not the best team in the Big Ten, but, they're one of your top teams and should be a tournament team by year's end. Nebraska at home, outstanding. They were 12-0 at home this season until Illinois came in and beat them. But what Nebraska doesn't do at home is cover the spread. They are just 5-7-1 ATS at home this season. One of those wins, though, Nebraska, it's kind of a similar type situation. Very good Michigan State team went to Nebraska, and Nebraska won that game. It was 54-52. So they do have a quality win at home as well. So where does that put us? Well, I'm still kind of I got to lean one way. I think I'm going to look at what I tend to look at a lot is the four factors, and I don't know if you get into four factors or not. It's a coaching thing. There's four factors of basketball that really point to having success when you play games. Coaches use these stats a lot. So you've got, and it makes sense, really. I mean, if you think about it, how do you win basketball games? Well, you shoot well, don't turn the ball over, rebound well, and get to the free throw line, and hopefully, shoot fairly well from the free throw line. So the four factors are effective field goal percentage, which, without a long discussion, it's a number that takes into account both twos and threes from a shooting perspective. You have turnover percentage as an offensive team. What is your turnover percentage? Obviously, the lower the percentage, the better. Then you have offensive rebounding percentage. How many offensive rebounds do you get compared to your total rebounds? Teams that are good on the offensive glass tend to win more games. And then free throw rate. How many free throws do you take related to the number of field goal attempts that you take? If you take more, obviously you have more chances to score, especially when the clock's not running, right? So if you take a look at the four factors in this game, you have one very large edge, and we'll get to that in a second. We start with effective field goal percentage. Purdue's they're an outstanding shooting team. They're number 10 in the country in effective field goal percentage. You say they're an elite shooting team because they are. On the other end, Purdue's better than Nebraska, but on the other end, Nebraska ranks number 30. So there's 365 Division I teams. If you're 30th, you're pretty damn good. So a slight edge to Purdue as far as a shooting team. Turnover percentage, Nebraska, elite. Number 8 in the nation. They just don't turn the ball over a lot. And that, of course, means that you maintain possession. And if you maintain possession, you have a better chance to score. So Nebraska's 8th, but Purdue 28th again. That's way up there. So both these teams protect the basketball pretty well. I'll mention free throw rate first. Neither team really gets to the free throw line a lot. Purdue's 328th in the nation, and Nebraska's 352nd. If you want to say there's a slight edge for Purdue, great. But the glaring, the one edge that is, staring you in the face is Purdue is the better rebounding team by far, especially on the offensive end. And when you get offensive rebounds, you get second chances, sometimes third chances, and you have the opportunity to score and fill it up. And that's why, Purdue averages 83 points a game, but they really don't play an up-tempo style of basketball. Purdue is 48th in the country in offensive rebound percentage. Nebraska is 319th. So the glaring edge, like I said. Now, does it make me want to just jump on Purdue? Not necessarily. However, what I like to do, a couple things I like to do really. One is look at their KenPom rankings. And I look at some others as well, but I do like the KenPom rankings. And if you compare those, Purdue is the higher rated team according to KenPom. It's not by much. And if you account for Nebraska playing at home, I would really say that these two are, pretty even. Another thing I like to look at is possessions per game. I think that tells you a lot about how a game could play out. And in this case, I mentioned it before that Purdue doesn't like an up-tempo style of game. They don't play fast. They only average 68 possessions per game. In a normal college basketball game, you're going to see about 70 possessions. That's where Nebraska's at, right at the average. They're 251st in the nation, right at the average of 70. Purdue a little bit less, and Purdue ranks 315th. So, what I see, I see a game that's probably around 70 possessions. And if you're around 70, and if you account, for a point per possession from each team, you're probably going to see a game that's in the low 70s. That said, earlier today, I liked Purdue plus the 2.5, and now with the line movement, what you're seeing is you're seeing money come in heavily on Purdue. Does that mean Purdue wins a game, or Nebraska doesn't win the game because Nebraska is a pretty good home team? Blah blah blah. No, but I think this is a case where you see Purdue keep this one really, really close. I'm leaning on Purdue. I can still get 2 or 2.5 at a pretty good price, and I'm going to lean towards that in this game. Purdue, for myself, like I said, Purdue plus 2.5. You're going to find that at your sports books at plus 1.5. I'd pay for the point myself, but that's up to you. So again, Purdue. I like to lean on Purdue on this one, and moving right along, we'll get to the second game here, and we'll go to the SEC for this one. Vanderbilt is traveling to Auburn, and we're seeing Auburn as a 4.5 point favorite in this one. Total at 161.5. Vanderbilt's still ranked. They're 19-4. I mean, this is a quality basketball team. All 4 of those losses, though, are in the SEC. Which just shows you. I mean, this is a gauntlet to try to get through. Big Ten and the SEC are just, I mean, they're tough, and don't count out the Big 12 either. We'll get to a game there as well. But Vanderbilt, number 19 in the country, taking on an Auburn team that I kind of think they're underrated. I mean, I'm wearing the hat, just because that was the closest one laying around, but. Auburn just lost to Alabama. They've actually lost 2 in a row. They lost to Tennessee, which is a pretty good basketball team. They lost to Alabama over the weekend, and they only lost by 4. And really, one of the big things in college basketball games that's hard to pinpoint is 3-point variance. I mean, sometimes teams shoot lights out, sometimes they shoot like shit. So Bama just shot the lights out from 3, 52 or 53% from 3 in that game. Auburn lost by 4. Auburn scored 92 points. They dominated the offensive glass. We talked about 4 factors. They had more offensive rebounds. They forced 14 turnovers. So they won the turnover battle too, but they end up losing by 4. And that's again because Alabama just shot so well. So Auburn, I think, kind of an underrated basketball team. Very good on the offensive end. I don't think they get enough credit on the defensive end. And I'll mention, what they do defensively in a moment. But offensively, this is a team that scores 85 points a game, number 28 in the country. I see cash action bets. Hey, Auburn. I can't argue with you on that. But 84.7 points a game, number 28. They're number 12 in the country in adjusted offensive efficiency. We use these terms a lot. Basically, it just means that when they get an offensive possession, like they're going to go down, they're going to score. They're very good on the offensive end. Don't take anything away from Vanderbilt because they do play very good defense, but they're going to be in for a rough one tonight. Vanderbilt, they have a couple of decent road wins, but when they've stepped up in class, and Auburn really, like I said, Auburn, I mean, this is a top 30, top 35 basketball team. If you go to KenPom, I think they're ranked 30th. So I know they're 14-9, but again, they're playing the SEC. They've played a murderous schedule, and they're only 5-5 in conference play. But Vanderbilt, when they had to go to play Texas, which, Auburn, Texas, and the other one's Arkansas, kind of lump those all together. I mean, they're probably all bubble teams right now, but they're teams that, over the next month could really make a statement and make their case that they belong in the NCAA tournament. When Vandy went to play Texas, like they got their ass whooped, 80-64. Like Texas just crushed them. And then it was even worse when they went to Arkansas. And you can argue, Arkansas this and Arkansas that. They're good, they're not good, they're whatever. But that day, Vanderbilt got their ass kicked by 25. So Vanderbilt, to me, when they step up, go on the road, take on a team kind of like Auburn, Texas, Arkansas, they just haven't stepped up in those types of games. So I think they're going to have some trouble, especially in the jungle. I mean, this is a tough place to play. So, like I mentioned, I look at KenPom rankings and some others. When you look at the KenPom rankings, Vanderbilt's the higher rated team, and it's a good 4 or 5 points higher than Auburn. But when you adjust for Auburn playing at home, again, you're getting pretty close to even in my estimation. Auburn's 9-2 at home. They covered 6 out of those 11 games. Laying 4.5 here. Why are they laying 4.5? You got to figure that into the mix as well. And then again, look at the matchup historically. I look at these and I mention them just because I probably should. But what Auburn did 8-9 years ago against Vanderbilt really has no bearing on this game. But I will say that Auburn has beaten Vanderbilt in the last 3 in a row, and they have won 8 of the last 9 games against Vanderbilt. Does that automatically mean they're going to win this game? Well, obviously not. But I will say this for Vanderbilt, give them credit because, they are one of the best scoring teams in the nation. They're top, I think they're 11th, so not top 10, but almost 89 points a game. They're a very good free throw shooting team. If you look at the 4 factors, again, they do have an advantage. They're the better shooting team, and they are the better team in turnover percentage. They don't turn the ball over a lot. Auburn really doesn't either. They're a top 40 team in turnover percentage. But a couple of glaring weaknesses, once again, or glaring advantages, if you look at the 4 factors. Auburn is the better rebounding team, especially on the offensive end, where Auburn is number 5 in the nation in offensive rebounding percentage. They're also number 29 in the nation offensive rebounding percentage. They're number 5 in free throw rate. So I don't know if you've seen Keyshawn Hall. I don't know if you know who Keyshawn Hall is, but the dude can play. He's damn good. He's averaging like 24, 25 points a game over the last 4 or 5. And he'll take it to the rack and he'll get to the free throw line. And he's not the only one. And Auburn does that very well. And remember, those are chances where teams get to put points on the board with the clock not moving. So, hopefully, or maybe you're getting the idea where I'm headed. Vanderbilt, number 27 in the nation in possessions per game. Auburn, 91st. Both these teams above average in possessions per game. Auburn about 73, Vanderbilt about 75. And when you put the two together, I think you're going to find that, this is going to be a game that's, high 70s and probably more like low 80s. And I think we're going to see this one get pushed over. So I actually got this one at 160.5 at the open. I thought that was a little bit too low for these two teams. If you look at the last 3 years that they've played, and again, Auburn won all 3 of these games, 145.5, then it was 143, then it was 157 last year, and now we open at 160.5, and I think most sports books actually have 161.5 right now. But in this game, I just think they're just going to get after each other up and down the floor. It's the way they like to play. It's also the way that Auburn likes to play defense. Auburn defensively, if you look at their metrics and stats, you'd be like, oh, they're not that great a defensive team. But they will force you to play faster than you like. And Vanderbilt's okay with that because Vanderbilt's an up-tempo team and they'll run the floor, and that's fine. But Auburn will force them to play fast, and that's one of the big reasons why I like Vanderbilt. Auburn over 160.5. That's game 2. We get to our last game, game 3. Final game that we're going to take a look at today, and that is we're going to the Big 12. I mentioned, the Big 10, tough to play in the Big 10, tough to play in the SEC, tough to play in the Big 12 too. Big 12, Iowa State at TCU. Iowa State comes in a 6.5 point favorite, 147.5 is your total here. The spread in this game actually jumped up to 7.5. It came, right back down to 6.5. And that's where it's sitting currently. Pretty sure I didn't look before I got on, but pretty sure we're still at 6.5. Iowa State, number 5 team in the country. Just there's no question that they're the better team. There's not. And you can argue, well, they didn't play anybody and blah, blah, blah. And I'll talk about some of that in a minute. But if you just look at sheer, statistics, metrics, Iowa State, 21st in scoring, 85.9 points a game, 8th in effective field goal percentage, 4th in 3-point field goal percentage. Then you go to the other side of the ball. They're number 16 in scoring defense. They allow 65 points a game, and that's the mark of a TJ Otzelberger team is defense. Recently he's just been able to bring in some studs that can score it on the other end too. So, I can go on and on with metrics. TCU just not as good. Does that mean that Iowa State comes in here and smashes them? No, not necessarily. Because again, you can argue that Iowa State, they've won their last 5 games in a row. They covered 4 of those last 5 games, and they were actually double-digit favorites in all 5 of those games. Covered 4 of the spreads. However, we do at Why Lose, we talk about spots a lot, and I'm not big on, well, hey, we're looking ahead to, just because coaching background. I know TJ Otzelberger is, he's not focused on Saturday against Houston or Saturday against Kansas or next Monday against Houston. They're focused on beating TCU. That said, I think they're going to be in for a dogfight at TCU. TCU, pretty good home team, and very good as an underdog. They're actually 7-2 against the spread when they're playing as a dog. So I don't think this will be easy. You've got Iowa State coming in off of a close win at home over Baylor. They should, looking at the opening line in that game, it should have been a kind of a runaway deal for Iowa State against a Baylor team that's so they had that tough win there. They come here on the road to TCU. Are they looking past TCU? I would argue that TJ Otzelberger has them ready to go and play, but it's still something that you have to consider. And I see a couple, cash action with TCU. I like TCU. And yeah, I can't argue with you. I would lean TCU. I think you can still get TCU +7. But I'll give you, what my better play, or kind of the way I'm going to play it. I looked at the 4 factors again. Iowa State, of course, has the advantage in 3 of those. The one they don't is free throw rate, and it's very close. TCU's 113 and Iowa State's 157. You look at the possessions per game. TCU does play a little faster. They're above average in possessions, about 73 a game. And Cash actually mentioned 7.5 DraftKings. Yeah, if you can get +7.5, yeah, I like that. The one thing that Iowa State does that I should mention is they force a lot of turnovers, and that's why I'm going to go in this direction. I would lean TCU +7.5. I do like that. I'll co-sign that with cash action bets. And I've seen a number of. I actually think Guns likes TCU here. I think that might be his free pick today. But here's what I like, and I mentioned Iowa State forces a lot of turnovers. So they're number 6 in the country in defensive turnover rate. So 22%, a little over 22% of opponent possessions end up in a turnover, meaning Iowa State gets the ball back and they have the opportunity to score. In 4 of their last 5 games, Iowa State has scored at least 77 points. They've scored at least 77 points in 18 of their 23 games this season. They average almost 86 a game. I know TCU is a decent defensive team, but teams shoot 49% from 2 and about 35% from 3 against TCU. It will take an elite defensive effort from TCU to slow down Iowa State. I just don't think they get it. And I see somebody, Cash X says you like the under. Yeah, maybe, but what I like better is I like Iowa State to go over their team total. I think they come in, like I said, TJ Otzelberger has them ready to go, not looking ahead to Kansas or Houston. They come in and play their game, force turnovers, shoot the ball well, and get over 76.5. So Iowa State up and over 76.5 points, along with the lean of TCU plus the 7.5, which Cash Action Bet says you can still get. So that's the 3 games that I have for you here with some lean, some free picks, some analysis. I hope you enjoyed that. I do have one more, and I put this up today. Maybe you saw it on the blog, but this is today's best bet. Before we get to that, let me mention I do have a max bet for tonight's games. Max bet's been doing really well. I think we're 13-4 in the last 17 max bets. Hit the max bet for the Super Bowl, which was cool. Hit the max bet last night on a team total. We do have one tonight. If you want to get that max bet, we'll put a link here in the description. You can go to get that, pick it up. $49 gets you that max bet. It'll also get you the best bets that I have for tonight. Usually, 2 to 3, sometimes a few more. And as I always say, you're either going to win now or you're going to win later, because that max bet, like I said, 13-4 over the last 17. If we don't win tonight, then I'm going to give you a week of max bets and best bets for free. So you're either going to win now or win later. So that's Coach Rick's max bet. And again, Burns, he's going to put that link into the description. And without further ado, we'll move on to tonight's best bet. Earlier today, I put up on the Why Lose blog today's free pick, and it's from Washington State and Gonzaga. And very simply, it goes like this. Gonzaga scored, I took their team total over, I don't know how many times early in the season, just because they were scoring in the 90s, over and over and over. And then Braden Huff got hurt, and then Ike got hurt as well. But right around the time that Huff went out, Gonzaga just started to struggle defensively. And it's funny to say struggle, when they still score 88 and 89 points a game. But, it wasn't typical Gonzaga basketball. So what wasn't typical was one of those things that I mentioned, in possessions per game. So typically, Gonzaga is a team that not only this year, but years past, they're going to average 72 to 74, 75, even 76 possessions per game. Like, they get up and down the floor. It's an up-tempo style of play that Mark Few has played for years. When Huff went down, that started to change. And if you just take their last 3 games, Gonzaga's average possessions per game over the last 3 is 67.5. They're just not getting the number of possessions. Washington State is not an up-tempo team. They average right around, your average for a college basketball game, and that's 70. I don't see how this game gets over. What we've seen, because of the fewer possessions in Gonzaga's games, we've seen a lot of unders. So 6 out of the last 7 Gonzaga games have gone under. And then don't forget, Gonzaga is they're really good defensive. Like, they are winning games this season because they are playing outstanding defense. Washington State, so-so, and they're not really good on the road. I think they're 2-8 in road games this year. So I would expect Gonzaga to shut them down. Don't be surprised. There's some history where Gonzaga, loses a game and then comes back and wins by 25 or so. There's, Yeah, so I'm not going to get anywhere near that spread, but I do see Gonzaga really playing some great defense, and they'll still score, but not what we normally see from a Gonzaga team. So I actually like this game to go under 156.5. 2 of the last 10 games that Gonzaga has played, only 2 have gone 157 or more. So tonight, Washington State, Gonzaga, under 156.5 as your best bet. And that'll do it. That's our show. 3 games for you, like I said, some free plays, some analysis, and a best bet for you. Let's cash some tickets tonight. Let's have a great one. And as always, as I like to say, we'll end with this. Giddy up.
Cut my life into pieces. This is my life.